If he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States, why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk. So
are they misguided, the 50%? Are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Bret, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me add.
Mic drop. Vice President Kamala Harris just gave a commanding interview on Fox. Bret Baier, who was doing the interview, was trying to get in all these gotcha questions at Vice President Kamala Harris, but she was just pushing back, going on the offense. Here she is again saying to Bret Baier, can I just finish what I'm trying to say here so I can actually get out the facts? Here, play this clip.
Before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue.
I hear you.
But
right-wing MAGA folks were pissed. Vernon Jones wrote, Bret Baier just got played by Kamala Harris. She danced all over him and ran the clock out on him. Wow, Bret, you bombed. I wouldn't say she ran the clock out. I mean, she was answering the questions and pushing back against all of the lies. Here, Vice President Kamala Harris responds very forcefully to another question by Bret Baier. Let's play it.
Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Bret,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Bret.
Madam Vice President, it was
here Vice President Kamala Harris again talking about how Donald Trump's trying to spread fear and discord. Play this clip.
He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
Vice President Kamala Harris addresses one of their questions. Will this be a continuation of the Biden presidency? Play this clip.
You're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
Bret Baier again trying to do another Biden gotcha. Play this clip.
Were no concerns raised?
Bret, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
If you make coffee at home like I do, then you have to hear about our friends at Trade. You know I'm the resident coffee snob here at MeidasTouch, and I would not steer you wrong. No matter how you brew or what equipment you use, getting your coffee from Trade is hands down the easiest way to instantly upgrade your at-home coffee game. Trade partners with the best independent roasters from across the US, small towns where these roasters are crafting the perfect beans you'd love to experience for yourself. And with Trade, you get their best coffees delivered fresh and roasted just for you. I've been trying some amazing roasts lately from Trade, and the freshness is unreal. You know that feeling when you open up a new bag of coffee and the smell just hits you? It's like a wave of rich, roasted goodness, and honestly, it is so much better than going to the store. Every time a new bag shows up in my mailbox, I feel like it's like a holiday. I'm always so excited to see what roaster it's from and to try something new. Over 435,000 people have already discovered how much better their coffee experience can be with Trade. And if you're not 100% happy with your first bag, they'll replace it for free. I mean, what's better than that? Don't settle for okay coffee. Head to drinktrade.com/Meidas to receive your first bag free. That's drinktrade.com/MEIDAS to get your first bag free with any new subscription.
Here's Vice President Kamala Harris saying, if you want to have this conversation, let's do it on the basis of facts and not lies. Just going right into the home of Fox and telling them how it is. This is incredible stuff. Play the clip.
Packed, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has
all of this money
has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished
and
the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And
then Bret Baier oddly said to Vice President Kamala Harris, I hope you got what you wanted to say out about Donald Trump. Very, very strange and passive aggressive here by Bret Baier. Let's play it.
And think differently. Madam Vice President, they're rapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say. There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you.
Another question by Bret Baier that's odd. What are you turning the page from? Let's play it.
Heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country.
Here, Vice President Kamala Harris talks more about why Donald Trump is unfit to serve. Let's play it.
Wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
you
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
people have become,
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president, one, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
Here, Vice President Kamala Harris shows how weak Donald Trump was on Iran. Let's play it.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration that Iran regime, that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision that they feel.
Who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're rapping me very hard.
And then after the interview, Bret Baier, I guess, tried to save face. And so he's like, but like her handlers were trying to get her to leave. Here, watch this.
Dana, you've been on the other side. You've been on the rapper as a press secretary interviewing a president. And, you know, I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands like it's got to stop. So Martha, I had to dismount there at the end. There's so many things, and she maybe should do more of these.
Now, may I just show you the clip that Bret Baier didn't show Vice President Kamala Harris so you can actually have the facts? Because here on the MeidasTouch network, unlike Fox, we're a data-driven, fact-based network. Here's the interview with Donald Trump by Fox's Maria Bartiromo, who, by the way, was deeply involved, as was Bret Baier, in the $800 million defamation settlement that Fox had to make for lying about the 2020 election and utilizing the same tactics that we see now. But here, Donald Trump says that he will turn the United States military against Americans who he doesn't like. Listen to it for yourself. Play the clip.
Let's remember, you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years. Yeah. You have people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000 rapists. Right. What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
And there are dozens of clips that Bret Baier could have showed if he was an honest broker here, but he did not. Like this clip right here of Donald Trump speaking in Coachella, California, where Donald Trump describes the type of people he's going to send the military at, who he calls the enemies within. He goes, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and leftists. Here, play this clip.
President Xi and myself, somebody said, what kind of a man is he? He's a fierce person. He is. He's a very smart guy. I hate to say brilliant, because every time I call him brilliant, the press says, he said the president, well, he is a brilliant guy. Got 1.4 billion people. He rules it with an iron fist. And the press gets upset when I say he's a smart man. I would think he's a smart man, but actually, he's somebody that we can't. The worst people are the enemies from within. The sleazebags, like a guy that you're going to elect to the Senate, Shifty Adam Schiff. He's a sleazebag. No, this guy. No, he's a major lowlife. And because of the fact that, you know, they send millions and millions of ballots someplace, they send them all over the place. California, you don't have anything like a voting booth. They take ballots, they just send them all over the place. They come back and they say, oh, somebody won by 5 million votes. And it's so corrupt, so corrupt. But you're going to have Shifty Adam Schiff, one of the true, I know him well, because he conceived of the Russia hoax, right?
And by the way, despite Bret Baier just embarrassing himself and just showing what a propaganda network is Fox, didn't it feel good? Again, I don't care what political party you're from. Like, I really don't. Like, doesn't it feel good to see someone competent like Vice President Kamala Harris answer the questions, articulate policies, speak in sentences, versus Donald Trump at these town hall events that he's doing, where he just says, why am I doing questions? Let's do music. And then bobs his head for 39 minutes as he also potentially soils himself in public. Here, play this clip.
Let's not do any more questions. Let's just listen to music. Let's make it into a music. Who the hell wants to hear questions, right? Isn't that beautiful, though? It's so beautiful. And we played that in Butler, Pennsylvania. We had a moment of silence, and then we had the bells of Notre Dame go off, and then we had a great opera singer, Christopher, who was so incredible, and a great, great opera singer.
Judge for yourself. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers together. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.